Welcome to Idea to Investment, the podcast where we dig into the exciting world of entrepreneurship and investment. We tell the stories of the tech creators doing innovative work and the investors who back them up. Along the way, unveiling the fascinating journey from the birth of an idea to scoring crucial investment. We'll highlight the voices of entrepreneurs, showcasing their grit and creativity, all while gaining insight from the investors who believed in those dreams. Get ready to be inspired, stay informed, and stay tuned as we explore the awesome collision of ideas and investments.
Hi there, I'm Christina Fox. I'm the CEO of TechAlliance of Southwestern Ontario.
Hi, I'm Maloney. I'm the Vice President of TechAlliance of Southwestern Ontario.
So by now you may know that TechAlliance of Southwestern Ontario responsible for Idea to Investment. So thank you for that. Appreciate you being the angel to this. But we do want to learn a little bit more about TechAlliance. So maybe Christina, we'll start with you. What is the origin story of TechAlliance?
Oh wow, that's a great question. TechAlliance began. It was built by founders and folks who wanted to have an impact in the technology economy way back more than 20 years ago when technology was referred to as high tech. So a lot more focus on hardware and software and applications within business. And so a group of community-minded folks who were keen to begin to create prosperity in the tech ecosystem came together and created TechAlliance. And from there, what started as a member-based organization where larger and emerging companies in the region began to support more talent attraction and greater product development in market and began to give a name for TechAlliance and London, Ontario. And from there, TechAlliance had the great privilege of receiving some support through all three levels of government to engage a further geography. And so while TechAlliance continues to be headquartered in London, Ontario, we support founders, industry leaders, and entrepreneurs and tech talent across Southwestern Ontario, in Greater Ontario, and in some cases across Canada.
Okay, so Melissa and Christina mentioned, it started off as member-based. What does membership look like? And in fact, let me go back to the very beginning. What would a first contact look like for someone who was reaching out to TechAlliance?
So in general, people typically come to us through our website. So they can go right to our website and there's a spot that says, I want some advisory services, or I want to be a member. And that's typically our first point of contact. And we consider everybody who's a part of TechAlliance a member, and we just have different types of memberships. So for what would be considered the members who are focused mainly on our advisory services, so they work with our venture growth team to truly grow their businesses, they're free of charge. So those members receive all of our services complimentary, and we work with them to support them in whichever way they need. We kind of say we're a concierge service. So we are really about connecting people to the resources that they need to grow and strengthen their business, alongside doing the things we do in-house as well.
Okay, I'm glad you brought up the free of charge aspect, because Christina, I don't want to be gauche or anything, but I think it's important to talk and be open about the cost of all of this. Is there a cost, and how is this all funded?
Yeah, that's a great question. We sort of, as a centralized resource and the voice of Southwestern Ontario's innovation economy, what we try to do is radically reduce any barriers and increasing speed of success for early stage startups and most promising startups and the fastest growing technology companies. And we're able to do that because we have funding through each of the three levels of government. And so what that means is it's our interest and our privilege to make sure that companies have what they need at the right time and without any additional obstacles. So founders and operators and CEOs and their companies often face headwinds in growing their business and launching their business, growing their business, depending on market conditions and other things that are happening in a global sphere. So the work that we do is really to move any kind of an obstacle that doesn't allow a company to move forward, particularly companies that are technology and innovation focused or technology enabled. And so what that means is most often there's no charge to any founder. And that comes often as a regular surprise for folks who are taking a look at the work that we do and how we can actually support them in their goal setting and their growth strategy, whether that be creating Made in Ontario and Made in Canada IP, or taking a look at how they can receive capital so they can hyper-focus their growth, and or looking at how they export their products. So depending on what the need is of the company and the size of the company and the industry that they operate in, we have different people within our ecosystem, and particularly within TechAlliance, that can support them at no cost to them in achieving the goals that they have.
Christina, tell me about the structure. I mean, how exactly does TechAlliance operate?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're a not-for-profit organization, incorporated more than a couple of decades ago. And over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, we've undertaken a massive evolution organizationally, sunsetting things that worked in the early days and perhaps no longer work and don't necessarily meet the demands of the ecosystem as it is now, or the innovation economy as it is now. And part of that evolution that we've experienced as an organization is really reshaping our board. So our board of directors represents industry's age and stage of technology companies and innovative ventures. And so our board of directors are highly accomplished founders themselves, sometimes with serial businesses, sometimes at early stage, sometimes at later stage, but it cuts across a lot of different industries, from gaming to clean tech, health sciences, and SaaS, and many others. And so I think that's a key piece of our recent history, that we have a board of directors for whom really understands what it means to be built by founders and have a founder focus to all of the things that we do and how we prioritize the resources that we have within our organization. And so when we think about the changes that we've made to the organization, many of that comes alongside a set of board of directors for whom have a vision that's as big and audacious as the ones that our team has.
You know, when we talk to founders on this podcast, the one thing that seems to be consistent across every founder is mentorship.
Yeah.
Melissa, I do want to dig kind of into more of the resources, but let's start with mentorship. How does TechAlliance foster that?
Yeah, it's funny. That's actually how I initially started with TechAlliance. Was I was a growth coach. So that's one of the resources that we provide to the companies that we work with. So we look at mentorship in a few different ways. We have in-house advisors who are our venture growth team. They are all entrepreneurs themselves. So some of them are failed founders, some of them are founders in the making that are still working on new things. Some of them have never really let everything go and they dibble dabble in a bunch of things, but they are all entrepreneurs themselves. They have gone through the journey from start to finish. Mm-hmm. So having somebody who has that experience of, you know, the hard days, the good days, the times that sometimes the idea just isn't going to go, and that's okay too. And having that person who's going to help you identify when it's time to move to the next idea is all great access and huge mentoring opportunities. So those are all in-house. And then we have growth coaches who are essentially domain experts. So I was a sales growth coach because that's what my career had been in. But we have marketing growth coaches, finance growth coaches, public relations coaches, writing coaches, and the coaches don't do the work for the founder, but they support the founder in helping guide that. And that could be connecting them to resources. It could be connecting them to their own network. It could be just, for myself being in the sales side of things, people would call me and just say, hey, I keep getting the same objection. Can you help me work through this objection? And so just having that other person, being a founder, especially if you're a solo founder, can be really lonely. So to have the supports to just have somebody to bounce ideas off of is huge. And then the other outside resource would be our entrepreneurs in residence. And those are typically serial entrepreneurs or very experienced entrepreneurs that have gone from start to exit and can really leverage their knowledge of that entire entrepreneurial journey.
Any good innovation center, innovation hub like TechAlliance brings people together that have common and similar roles, functional roles, and to create opportunity for talent attraction, to create opportunity for founders who regularly are on their own and having a solo experience, to have the opportunity to talk very authentically and openly with other founders, to have access to investors who are part of that ecosystem, and that regularly those kinds of connections and meetups happen with the experiences that we curate, with the intention of the founder and their team to have access to other people who are building equally cool but very different things.
What is the sleeper resource at TechAlliance? So you get a founder who comes to you and they're seeking, I don't know, maybe they're seeking, a connection with more funding. What's that resource that they stumble across and go, wow, I had no idea I even needed that resource, but I'm so glad I found it within TechAlliance?
I would definitely say, I think it is different for every founder, because I think every founder comes with their own unique strengths. But I would definitely say one of the things that people, I think, minimize the value of is the relationships and the connection to the ecosystem, and that ability to get in a room with somebody who can be the person to connect you to the right person. And if you listen to the stories as you've been doing, like, you can always, you hear sort of that trend of, and then I met this person and the timing was right, and then this and this all fell into place. And that's really a huge part of, I think people come in looking for a solution and then find a community and realize the value of that community that they find.
100%. Christina, Melissa mentioned timing, and it's something that we have talked a lot about on the podcast as well with the founders, whether it's the timing of going to market with a product, the timing of scaling up, the timing of seeking investment. What about the timing for you? When do you like to have contact with founders? Is it during, that idea phase? Is it during the ramp up phase? Ideally, when would you like to make that contact with founders?
Well, we find, pretty regularly that founders of all sizes and scales are looking for things like access to talent, access to capital, and access to customers. And so when we think about kinds of the needs that they identify, they might come in thinking that they need access to capital, and they really need access to customers because they're in a revenue growth stage. So for us, there actually is no ideal time. What we do is we work at the speed that they're working at. So if you've got a founder that's coming in really in ideation stage, this is still a bit of their side gig, and they're still thinking about how their company might look, might be developed, how competitive they are in market, whether or not they have product market fit. No matter where an early stage founder is at, we have resources to support them in either ensuring that they're on the right track, or to ask those hard questions and whether or not they should be taking a step back, or if there's something they skipped that's going to support them in having success. So whether someone's coming in ideation, or someone who has a formed company where they've got 10 or 12 people already working for them, they've got the product market fit, they're already looking at what their next expansion is going to be. Again, that's also really perfect timing. If we work with a scaled company or a company that's on their way to unicorn status, we can bring so much different value to companies of that size. Often it's related to access to talent. So culture building, attracting talent, retaining talent, ensuring that they have policies in place and perks and benefits that support the attraction of technical and professional talent, whether that be emerging talent that's coming out of college and university, or mid-level management, or even the executive suite. So I would love to say that there is sort of a perfect or ideal time for us to be supporting companies, but quite honestly, whatever they come with, whatever is the composition of their company, whatever is the obstacle or challenge or opportunity that they're facing, we can generally support them in anything that they're doing. And I think that's what's really exciting about the work that we do, and why our team loves the things that we get to do, because every single day really is a different day. But what's really quite incredible is actually seeing founders get going and actually get their stride, have the product market fit, in the case of health sciences and health innovation, getting through clinical trials or therapeutics, or in the case of a SaaS-based organization, a SaaS-based company, having them, helping them land a big customer that's actually going to give greater credibility to the product that they've brought to market. Or when we look at things like protecting and commercializing their own intellectual property and creating that competitive moat, and seeing them actually bolt together what the company is really, really satisfying. But what's also satisfying is working with the later stage companies and seeing them go like the hockey stick up and to the right, where they're actually producing a product that has demand that customers really, truly want. And they've nailed down their sales playbook, and they've nailed down what their company culture is and their company framework. And even when they're looking at a liquidity event, if they've attracted capital and they're looking at exits, that they can actually produce either that world-class venture or move on to another world-class idea.
Melissa, do you get skeptics? Because I mean, from the from the outside, it seems like okay, so you've got this organization who's entirely in it for your success. We just want to see you succeed. That's what brings us joy. Many of our services are absolutely free of charge. Come on, what's the catch?
Yeah, I think and it's funny because when I moved into this role, people started to go, "What's TechAlliance? I don't know what that is." And when I describe what we do, I'd be talking to somebody just out in the community, and I describe what we do, and they go, "I worked for a tech company for 10 years and I didn't know I could have those resources." Like people, and we're a bit of a best kept secret, I guess, but it is truly what we do, and we're very lucky to be able to do it. And I think recognizing the impact of what we can do with how we are supported through the 3 levels of government is amazing. And we have some incredible sponsors who also help to support a lot of what we do as well. And so it is part of the sort of the tech world, is this give back mentality that really successful founders do tend to then reinvest back into the community and want to help the younger founders potentially not have as many mishaps as they had. And there is a really in the true tech world, like that's what happens. And so it's really neat to watch and see.
Okay, so what is the tech world though? Because I mean, today there are very few industries that don't at least somewhat operate within a digital space. So how do you draw that line between what is and what is not a tech enterprise?
I would add that technology is ubiquitous, and you're right. You're either a technology company or a technology enabled company. For us, it's when we have a potential customer come forward and say, "Here's what I'm looking for as far as support." We're interested in innovation, so we're interested in companies that are disrupting in legacy or traditional industries that may not necessarily be tech enabled or tech focused, but have the spirit of innovation and disruption. So a company that comes to us that you might not suspect to be a technology company or innovative company, we can usually figure it out in an early conversation whether or not we can bring support to them and we can help them move the needle on their big, hairy, audacious goals. And so it's a great question, because I think there's very few types of companies that we can't work with. But where we find someone who comes to us, which is typically word of mouth, we are a not-for-profit organization. We run lean, a bit like a scrappy startup. And so we really rely on good customer service and good customer experience. And that word of mouth then usually draws other new TechAlliance companies or TechAlliance members. And so what we find is that a company that comes to us and says, "Here's what I'm trying to solve for," or "This is what I'm creating," if we don't think that we can bring value because we don't have the type of expertise, we're happy to make referrals. We think of it sort of as a no wrong doors approach in any healthy ecosystem around the world. And certainly London is in the top 10 emerging tech markets in North America. What we know is that there's got to be a lot of players to support any company in having that kind of success. And so we work very closely with economic development shops in a number of different cities. We work successfully alongside small business centers in a number of different cities. We operate within a network across Ontario and across Canada of innovation centers, where there could be an expert at any one of these other innovation centers or innovation hubs across Canada, where we know somebody could really draw value from expertise in that organization, and we'll make sure that we make that referral. We don't want anyone to come through our front door and not have something that can support them. And often they identify that we're the place where they're going to get the greatest value, and we work with them. But where we can draw in other experts in kind of that concierge opportunity or in that concierge concept, then we make sure that we operate in a collaborative sense so that the founder and their team have every shot at creating success for their idea, their venture, or their next stage of company.
It really is. It's a time of disruption within tech right now. AI has a lot to do with that. Melissa, I mean, this feels like a big question, but I'll make it a little smaller for you. What's the state of tech today? And does a time of disruption like this translate to a time when you are likely to see more tech companies reaching out for assistance?
Yeah, I think we all know that we're in a very big movement of change, and technology is driving that change. They're saying AI will be the greatest revolution that we've seen so far in terms of what it's going to mean, which to some people is scary. To I think most people in our space, it's exciting about what that's going to mean and what's going to come. And so I think we're seeing a lot of people looking at different ideas in terms of how they can help support. I think one of the things that will be a really unique opportunity for a lot of our founders is they have the technical expertise that so many other businesses that are not necessarily tech businesses, but they need that level of expertise. So it's the how do we help the companies that say weren't tech enabled before become tech enabled, and the products that some of our founders are building. I think of a couple of our AI founders and what they're building the tools that will be essentially services for other companies. And that is where there's so much opportunity right now, is how do we use these early stage companies. In my dream world, we're using these early stage companies to build the service industry of Southwestern Ontario, to build the non-tech companies of Southwestern Ontario. You don't need to hire in-house. We've got experts who are here with products ready to go. And that's a huge opportunity, I think, right now in our world.
Yeah, Christina, same question. And
Yeah.
you know, kind of where does Southwestern Ontario fit in the big puzzle picture?
I would say Southwestern Ontario, and particularly the Greater London area, is among the next top ecosystems certainly in North America and potentially in the world. We have our eye on the potential of the founders in the companies and the variety of industries that operate within this region, you know, from clean tech to health innovation to SaaS to food and beverage innovation. There's so many different industries. In fact, when people ask, you know, what are the areas that you see most often? Really, what we're not seeing is forestry and mining. That could change. But if you think of any sort of major industry that is existing in a developed nation, London has almost all of it, or between London, St. Thomas, Sarnia, Woodstock, Goderich, in that region, there's just about something for every single industry. And so that creates a very competitive edge in Canada's innovation corridor that we are certainly embedded in. When we look even to the future, thinking about the industrial age and the changes that are happening that are related to technology and innovation and the speed to which that's happening, I find it really interesting when you couple that with the uncertainty that we are seeing in the economy. And that often we talk about following the map versus following the terrain. And I think a lot of founders who are looking to the future and looking at the future of work and the opportunities to create prosperity for the future, it's happening in the innovation sector and the innovation economy. And so that's why it's a really exciting time. And as Melissa suggested, there is some fear about what the future could look like, but we know history shows us that for each major period of economic uncertainty, the increase in small business, which regularly is, you know, technology startups, skyrockets. And so we're on the cusp of a lot of really interesting times, but there's actually an awful lot of abundance when people really put their mind to it. So economic uncertainty often creates a difference in the map and terrain, but it also creates a whole lot of opportunity for what could come next, and those who are prepared to push into that what comes next and to actually lead into it. And we have the privilege at TechAlliance of all of our staff of being connected to the people who are thinking about the future and supporting that world-class thinking, supporting that risk-taking to actually see what can be, you know, what can change as a result of any uncertain times.
You know, and I'm in an enviable position because I get to learn about those stories and hear them directly from the founders and from the funders firsthand. Melissa, was that the idea behind idea to investment?
Yeah, I think we've got such a storytelling. To me, is how we create, it's how we create change, it's how we create excitement, it's how we create belief. Like, there's so much value in storytelling, and hearing the stories directly from the founder, you just can't ever get a description of an organization any better than when you hear it from the person that literally thought of it. And the passion in which they tell that story and the way they can give the details and just really go through the journey, I think is so important. And I think it really highlights the amazing organizations, businesses, founders, ventures that we have in this area. And I also think one of the things that was important to us, though, was to also have the conversation about the challenges of entrepreneurialism, because we often hear the success story. We hear, I just closed a round for 25 million, or I just closed a round for 2 million, and you hear all these wins. And as you're sitting in the background, what you're not hearing is, I've filled out 100 grant applications in the last 3 months and I've gotten none of them. And then I filled out the 101st, and then that one came through. Like, those are the things that we're not talking about enough. And I think it's important for founders to have the belief that when to keep going, and that this is normal. This isn't you. This is part of the journey. And so, to me, there's no better way to do that than to tell the story and to actually hear it from somebody. And I think that is a sort of a missing piece in entrepreneurialism is the hard days, because there are good days, but there are a lot more hard days, especially in the beginning, than there are good days.
And it's so valuable to have someone who has overcome those hurdles coaching you along the way. Absolutely. So at the end of the podcast, what we usually like to do is ask our founders to play a little game and pretend they could go back in time and tell themselves one thing that might be able to change things for them. For you two, though, I thought this is a little different. We've already gone back. Let's go forward. What is the long-term mission for TechAlliance? Where do you see things in not even 5, let's say 10, maybe even 20 years? Christina, what's the future of TechAlliance?
Well, we're here for the long game, and as an organization that fosters and cultivates a thriving ecosystem anchored in diversity, equity, and inclusion, our moonshot is really to be among the top tech ecosystems in Canada, and we're on our way there for sure.
Melissa, I'm ditto, or what?
Yeah, definitely ditto. And I think Christina mentioned diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think we are a female-led organization at TechAlliance, which we're very proud of. And there's still a lot of growth opportunity for female founders, female identifying founders, and female identifying investors. And I think we would like to definitely make a difference in that area as well. And I would hope in 20 years, we're not having that conversation anymore.
You're here. Well, I'm looking forward to telling more of these incredible stories that I've already been able to dig into. And I thank you both for giving me the opportunity to tell those stories. And I thank you both for giving me your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
My thanks again to Christina Fox, CEO, and Melissa Maloney, VP of TechAlliance of Southwestern Ontario. If you'd like more information or you'd like to get in touch with them, you can visit techalliance.ca. My name's Ken Eastwood. Thank you so much for being here.